Hello and welcome to the Daves I Know. That is Dave Cox.
And that is Dave Woodard.
We don't have a guest today.
No guest. We threatened this from episode 1, but it just worked out that we had music guests 2 weeks in a row.
Which is good. I mean, I think that like we discussed, like this is like that was a very important part of the podcast, music and just kind of stuff like that. But today we're actually going to get into some political shit.
Yep.
And I've been looking forward to this. We discussed some subjects.
Yeah.
And I think because I know it's February, but
the idea came about in January.
It came about. We were on it in January, but
that's right.
Things happen, you know. We wanted to go ahead and discuss the events of January 6th.
Yeah. And we haven't discussed it at all.
Not at all.
Leading up to this. So we might, even though we had this grand scheme that we're gonna have some like heated discussions, we might, but we don't fucking know.
But we don't know. That's the great thing. The mystery, but for you guys and us, it's kind of cool. I promised Dave that I wouldn't do. When we brought up the subjects, I was like, I don't want to know your take on it because I would rather do this just naturally, kind of feel like we discussing or arguing or debating or whatever on a real level, as opposed to like we talked about before, having a bunch of gotcha lines and we don't want to turn this into an MSNBC or Fox News or anything like that. We just kind of want to discuss this as two friends that may or may not have differences on this. I don't even know yet.
Yeah,
so.
I don't either, really. And the thing that's cool about this format too, and I think we talked about this in episode 1, is that that everything that's important in the world is nuanced.
Right.
So if you land all the way on one side or all the way on the other and agree with all of those talking points, you're probably not paying attention.
That is true.
So that nuance can't happen in 7-minute long segments on Fox News or CNN. You talk through it and hash it out, and you might even change your mind on part of it along the way too. But it's not made for TV shit. It's things are too complicated for a 30-minute show, which is actually 22 minutes after commercials.
Absolutely.
And all that shit,
I mean, and after all the sound bites and everything like that, and then all the graphics and everything that they have to make it look even more important, like it you just get so confused. And so let's go and start off January 6th. I have one question.
Okay.
Insurrection or no?
I hate to start off saying it's complicated.
It is complicated.
So before I started, I did research it just because that's the nature of my career and all this shit. I'm a numbers
You're
guy.
a nerd.
I'm a nerd. So, but my initial immediate reaction is absolutely fucking not.
Okay.
Now it's a little more towards it's complicated, but I still lean strongly that the majority of it was not.
Okay.
So what about you?
Okay, weird enough. I kind of agree with that. Now, I definitely think that there was people there that they were obviously there to stop the process.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was a protest, fine, but usually you don't bring zip ties to protests.
Right.
That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there was a good amount of people that were engaging in insurrection. I think the rest of the people kind of just followed suit as a mob kind of mentality.
Yeah.
I don't even think they knew what was going on. Do I think Trump directed people to go do this? No, but in so many different kind of ways, or in other ways, yes, in a way, because I guess it really kind of boils down to do you think this was a stolen election?
Right. It could. Yeah.
That's what it kind of comes down to as well.
Yeah, and even if people think it was, then they still have the right to march and
absolutely
scream and yell and
100%.
And the estimates vary dramatically on how many people were there.
Yeah,
like as few as 15,000. Some people say 500,000. Or whatever. But when you boil it down, what percentage of those people were there just to exercise their First Amendment right versus what percentage of people were there to actually try to stop the certification of the election?
That's the thing. I think the people that tried to actually stop the certification of it, like I said, I think that there was a group of people that definitely tried to do that.
Yeah.
As far as the election being stolen, no, I don't think the election was stolen at all. I'm not saying every election's perfect. And there's probably questions to be answered in certain counties and stuff like that. But even now, a lot of this information come to light a year or two later, when Trump's lawyers confessed that, we knew it wasn't stolen. We knew that what he was saying was bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, they all pleaded guilty too.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't plead guilty unless there's some evidence against you.
Exactly.
I mean, they took a plea deal. I think what hurts me about the whole thing is and this even goes back to the first impeachment of Trump. I don't think they should have done that.
Right.
And I'll tell you why.
Uh-huh.
You're starting. It's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
So what do you think the other party's going to do? And what are they doing right now? They're trying to find any reason to impeach Joe Biden.
Doing the same shit? Yeah.
So that's my whole thing. It's I understand, so I have two different guys that are running again. One has a fragile ego. One of them's just fragile. And they're both old. I mean, I know Biden's a couple years older, but Trump's old too. He's 77. He's old.
Yeah.
That's the downhill slope. But as far as an insurrection, I don't think everybody engaged in that. I think there was people there that were obviously upset that he lost, and I think that they took it a little too far, believing in his words of it was rigged. It was a rigged election.
He's still saying that.
He's still saying that. They have him. I mean, he's admitted that he lost. Not in public.
Right.
He's admitted it to his lawyers. He admitted it to people around him. Trump is very smart to in so many ways to not be in the room when shit's. He's pretty. You got to admit, he's pretty good at that.
And I think that goes kind of back to his business roots
Absolutely.
too. And even the way he dealt with international leaders and stuff like that. It was kind of that business game where he would shoot way over their heads and make these demands, knowing that you're going to end up somewhere in the middle along the way, and being really boisterous and all that. And he just kind of brought that to the presidency, which hasn't really happened before.
Right. Yeah. I think that's why a lot of people voted for him. I mean, let's face it. I mean, some people they're lifelong registered Republicans, and they're going to vote for the Republican nominee. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who it is. It could be fucking John Wayne Gacy, and they're like, "Hey, man, look, dude, I know he did that, but he's got an R next to his name."
Just like for this election coming up, I know a bunch of Democrats who hate Joe Biden.
Yeah.
They're terrified at the thought of him starting another term in the condition he's in now.
Yeah.
But are you going to vote for him? Fuck yeah.
Well, yeah, of course. It's either that or the other guy. You know what I mean?
And to go back to one that you were talking about the impeachment against Trump, and that, to me, that's like a perfect example of I'm a libertarian.
Yeah, yeah.
And lowercase libertarian. I'm not a political party person.
Yeah.
But the core of libertarianism for me is as few laws as humanly possible, while still being able to maintain order.
Yeah.
And if you move that into the political side of things, then the impeachment, it felt very politically motivated.
Absolutely.
And
100%.
The reason I'm a libertarian and that I want as few laws as possible is that if you create a law to come after me, or a process like the impeachment process is politically motivated, if you create that to benefit yourself, it can also be used against you when the other guys are in charge. And
I think that's what we're going through now. I think it's just like tit for tat. I think it's for well, look, you did this, so we're going to do this. So it's getting back to the actual events of that day.
Yeah.
I was bummed to see that shit. I was super bummed to see that. I'm not bummed to see people exercising their free speech. I'm an advocate of free speech. If you want to go in the corner and scream a bunch of fucking shit, whatever you want to scream. If it's racist, homophobic shit, that's fine. But you're gonna have to deal with the consequences.
That doesn't mean you won't get your ass
because somebody's gonna come by and say something to you or do something.
Right.
But that is free speech. Free speech does not protect speech you like. It protects the speech that you do not like.
Yeah.
It protects unpopular speech. Now, the fragile ego of ex-President Trump. I mean, his followers are very devoted, shall we say?
They are. It's kind of
is that the right word?
To me, it's like the forgotten middle class. You know what I mean? Like they're just fucking pissed.
Yeah.
They're not. Their dollar doesn't go as far as it used to.
Right.
So it's all. And then he says the things that those people are like, fuck yeah, you know,
yep.
Even though he's a multi-billionaire.
Yeah, he's one of those guys.
But he struck that chord, and he was like rolling through Washington like a fucking bull in a china shop. So he was, you know what I mean? So
pretty much.
So the disaffected middle class found something that like, man, this guy's loud like my buddy Joe. Right. You know, I like this dude.
And I think as far as the actual events of that day, and like I said, I think that there was definitely some people that did engage in insurrection. I just do, because they brought zip ties, they brought a fucking noose, screaming hang Mike Pence. It's like, you voted for the guy.
Right.
You know, it's like look, Joe Biden won, and because when Trump won, I remember my first thought was not it was stolen, it was rigged. That was not my first thought was like, well, fuck.
Yeah.
It was like, well, not that I really wanted Hillary Clinton in there, because I didn't. I'm not a fan of any of the candidates that have been running over the last fucking 15, 20 years, man. I'm really not.
The last one I liked, and he didn't make it past the primaries. I'm still a Rand Paul fan because he does the, you know,
Rand or Ron.
Rand,
okay.
Younger. I mean, Ron Paul was great for many years.
So I like Ron Paul. I'm not a fan of Rand Paul.
Okay. Ron,
here we go. We're gonna fucking argue now.
That's right. Ron Paul is much more like traditional libertarian.
Very old school.
He got a little kooky in the last few years. But Rand is more like fits into the system libertarian.
Yeah.
But yeah.
He does, and I'll tell you what my problem with Rand is, like, he kind of ended up being a little bit more of a brown noser to Trump as well. Like, he kind of like looked the other way during some stuff, and that you should speak up, whether it's in your party or not.
Yeah.
You know. So there was a special election that George Santos, his seat, and a Democrat just won.
Yep.
And this is a moderate.
Yeah.
This is not a woke leftist Democrat.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought I saw that.
He ran on, we do need to do something at the border. This is fucked up.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do, you know? And he ran on a couple of things that were just more moderate. Like the way I think most people think. I'm not saying everybody agrees on everything, you know what I mean? But what the thing about January 6th for me that I find kind of funny and a little odd is the Republican Party that's defending a lot of those people. But when you look at the videotape, they were hiding underneath their desks too.
Right.
They were running in the halls too. They were scared.
Yeah.
They were scared because they didn't know what those people were going to do.
And honestly, I still think a lot of the people, especially the people that did a lot of the damage, I really think some of those people aren't necessarily Republican or Democrat.
I agree.
And to the point that even that day, there were pipe bombs found right outside the DNC headquarters, and right outside the RNC headquarters.
So
some of these people are just like
just everything,
just
anti-government, and I understand that. I mean, I get that. I mean, I'm never saying I was anti-government, but for my teenage years, of course I was.
Right.
That the government was the enemy. They still are the enemy. They you know, these days. I mean, you know, I guess when you get older, you kind of flow into the way life just works.
Right.
I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying we don't have to like change some things or whatever. But and like I said, this it's kind of two subjects in one here because we're talking about January 6th, but it definitely reverts back to like stolen election or not.
Right.
And you know, I think the only person who really tried to steal this election was Donald Trump.
Yeah, that one's wild. I think there's every election. I think there was clearly fraud.
Okay.
In a variety of places. Georgia, maybe. Pennsylvania, probably.
Yeah.
Fraud happens in every election.
Sure.
Some election laws have been skewed to make it easier to do that.
Yeah.
But did it add up to enough fraudulent votes to affect the outcome of the election? I don't think it did.
I don't think it did either.
And people on, you know, the right side of my team get really pissed when I say shit like that. Don't fucking care. I mean, we still need to do our best to limit fraud in elections.
I agree.
Because ideally we shouldn't be in a situation where we're questioning if a presidential election is valid or not.
Yeah.
Because then that puts the entire system in jeopardy. And whether you're pro-government, anti-government, whatever.
Middle government, yeah.
This system keeps, if nothing else, it keeps us stabilized.
I think
if neither side believes in it, then the whole system gets destabilized. Then what? You're on a really, really slippery slope.
Exactly. It's like the 2016 election. I mean, Trump was saying it's rigged, and then he won, and it's like, oh, it's not rigged anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, wait a minminute.
Right. And the funny thing too, in 16, Hillary cried about it being rigged for a couple of years after.
She did?
Yeah.
I remember. I mean, she conceded like that the next night.
She did concede, but then she went on her the election was rigged to her.
Did
basically.
She really?
Yeah.
Okay. I have to look into that.
And then Stacey Abrams running for governor in Georgia.
Yeah, that was.
She still says that it was stolen, and that was what 7 years ago.
That was 7 years ago. It's like listen.
Both sides are just they suck at that shit.
They seem to be big babies about this shit. But that's the thing. Is like that wasn't my first thought when Trump won in 2016. I didn't think, oh, it's rigged, and somehow it's like I just didn't think there was a conspiracy to like. It's like. He played the game, and then I look back and I'm like, no, he played the game right.
Yeah,
he went to the states where he knew if he just got the votes in that state, he was going to get the electoral college.
If I can get the traditionally blue labor unions on board with me, if I can, get Teamsters on board, get UAW. He knew that was the angry.
Well, he didn't know. His team knew. I mean, Trump's an idiot. Yeah. Biden's an idiot. Trump's a fucking idiot. We all know this.
Right.
The guys pulling the strings, they knew.
Yeah.
McConnell knew. They knew how to play the game. They've been playing it for a long, long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, those of the events of that day, it was very saddening, and a couple reasons. Like it's tragic that people got killed.
Yep.
Cops got killed.
Cops died.
Cops died. Yeah.
I know that.
Well, that's right. No, that you're right.
That sounds nuanced because you're just as dead. But like,
yes.
A couple guys had heart attack. The only person that was killed was a protester.
Yeah, she got shot in the face.
Unarmed Air Force veteran got shot in the face.
Yeah, no, she got shot in the face. No, you're correct. Thanks for correcting me. So it was sad. I mean, that was just like, dude. Like, I mean, I get being like, what's the word I'm looking for? Just very like. Strong feeling about very passionate about your cause. I get it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think that it started just as a protest, and I think the bad apples that were in that group, which I don't think it was the whole group. Like I said, I think people were there expressing their dissatisfaction. Whether they believe the election was rigged or not, they have every right to go and say that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like they don't have the right to say that. Now, evidence-wise on that, it just didn't add up. I mean, and
yeah, and that day when on January 6th, I remember when it started. The feed started coming through on the news. I was like, oh shit, what's going on? I turned it on, and as a libertarian, so I align kind of with the right more than the left, just because that's how it is. And then old school liberals and I get along usually.
Yeah.
But generally lean right. Honestly, I either vote typically libertarian or Republican if I really need to throw up.
And sometimes you got to hold your nose and do it.
Strategically voting or whatever you want to call it. But when that happened, my reaction wasn't fuck yeah, do it, let's go, and it wasn't even like, oh, they gotta knock this down quick. My reaction was fuck all of this work that libertarians and right-leaning people have been doing to gain credibility and to get their message out, in one fucking morning that's all down the toilet because we have exited the high road.
Right. I mean, and think about this: if it was the other way around, and Republicans won, and Democrats have stormed the fucking Capitol.
Hang them from the rafters.
Because they're all geriatric. But the Republicans would be running on this right now. That would be their key issue. I mean, it is saddening because it does start a slippery slope. I think it started with, like I said, the first impeachment of Trump. I think it's like, well, there you go. That now the other party's going to do it when they get in power.
Yep.
And look what they did. They're trying to find something to pin Biden on. Yeah. I'm not saying he's clean as a whistle, because none of these motherfuckers are, dude.
Right.
I can't see their bank accounts. I can't see their offshore accounts. I can't see. You know what I mean? But it was. To me, it was saddening to see that. And then when people died, I was like, man, fuck, dude. Like,
yeah, for what?
I know. It's like just vote in the midterms. Vote, and like that's where your voice is. I know a lot of people don't believe that. They think that voting doesn't matter. It does matter. It does matter.
And even if you can't bring yourself to vote for a presidential candidate,
vote
anyway, because there's going to be down ballot candidates,
absolutely,
especially state and even more especially local.
It's local elections that matter.
Local elections and the laws and regulations they pass have much more of an impact on your daily life,
absolutely,
than the guy sitting in the Oval Office. Our government was designed for the president not to have much power,
exactly.
But the people making your county and your city's laws, that affects your shit every day.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's like when Trump went on his rampage of like, going to the courts to try to stop the election, steal the election.
Yeah,
we tried to, put into fake electors.
Yeah,
dude, it's like
it's a lot,
and it's like, and all because of a fragile ego. Yeah, all because of a I can't lose, I can't be a loser, I can't. That's my bad Donald Trump impersonation. I'm sure I got a bad Biden one too. I'll give you that in a moment. But the
Biden one's just.
Confused. Just confused. But it sucks because these two buffoons are running again, and I mean Trump's going to win the nomination. I mean, people are like, oh, there may be room for Haley. It's like she's not. Listen, I try to live in reality as much as I love non-reality shit. I try to live in reality as much as I can.
Yeah.
The reality is Trump is going to be the nominee. So we have to live through this shit again. Is Biden even going to make it through the next presidency if he wins? I don't know.
Oh, let's do that on another episode.
Yeah.
Because I have some deep theories on what the Democrats are going to do, but that's a whole separate thing. But
let me ask you this. Do you think if now, in history, they've replaced the nominee at the
convention.
At the convention.
They can do it.
They can do that. Let me ask you this. Because anybody that, because there's a lot of kind of Republicans now that are turning on Trump as well.
Oh yeah,
like voter wise.
Yeah,
they're just kind of like, I don't know if I could sit through four more years of this shit, and they're not happy about Biden either. And I get it. I get it. Because they both kind of pandered to this like extremeness in their party.
Yeah,
where Trump to the extreme right and panders to them. Which I don't think there's enough of them to get him the votes to win the presidency again. And where Biden kind of just, instead of being more of a moderate, he promised. Yeah, I would like to see that. Yeah. And he kind of goes more, he doesn't want to piss off the woke people.
Right.
Because then you have 15% of people that are just bashing you online and stuff. And it's just like, I don't know.
He's successfully made everybody on the left hate him because the progressives he pandered to them some, but not enough to make them happy.
Right.
And then the moderates, he's pandered to the far left too much. So trying to please everyone has ended up where I think most people on the left are like, man, fuck this guy. But if his name's on there.
Yeah, then... it comes down to this. I don't want the other guy to win.
Right.
That's really what it doesn't even come down to policy anymore. It just comes down I don't want the other guy to get into office.
Yeah, doesn't that suck? Entire adult life.
Yeah.
My first election I voted in, I was 18 years old, and I'm 55 now.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever voted, other than I did vote for Ron Paul when he ran as a libertarian.
I voted for Ron Paul.
But other than that, he might be the only candidate I've ever voted for. Where it was more like, fuck that guy. And maybe...
As opposed to a protest vote or so. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, protest vote or just well, I don't want the Democrats worse, so I'm going to vote for the Republicans.
Right.
I just hate picking the lesser of two evils. It's not a great...
What I told you before when I voted for Clinton the first time, and not Hillary, Bill Clinton in the 90s. It was my first election. So I was like, yeah, I mean... He sold himself very well. I thought like I told you before, I thought he was going to legalize weed.
Yeah,
and he ended up him and with the help of Biden and a lot of other, they the crime bill was the fucking worst. People are still suffering from it. Yeah, people are still getting suffered, still getting fucked over that shit. And it's when I realized that was the case, years 2 or 3 years later during his presidency, I was just yeah, fuck that. I voted for Bob Dole. Now that was when that came around, but that was just a protest vote.
Yeah,
I didn't think Bob Dole would get in there. I mean, the numbers kind of showed. Even back then, in my younger age, I still kind of paid attention to some of that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was my protest vote for that. Lately, my protest votes, I write in Homer Simpson.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I'd kind of almost would rather him be president. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's
I made
how much worse can he be?
I made a post about I was recent. This is drifting off the Jan 6 a little bit, but I think it's worth mentioning.
Whatever. We're talking politics. It's all good, man.
I was surprised at so RFK Jr. An ad was run during the Super Bowl, and it was old audio from his dad and his uncle, and when it came on, I was blown away. I was like, holy fuck, he ran a fucking ad. It's amazing. I disagree with a lot of his shit, but I for the most part I respect the guy, and I wouldn't feel as ill if I voted for him as an independent as the other two.
Right.
I have no clue who I'm going to vote for it.
Right.
But what shocked me is all of a sudden the remaining far left people that are still friends with me, because a lot of them aren't anymore, which is unfortunate.
That is unfortunate.
Which is one reason we're doing this.
Yeah, that's totally unfortunate, man.
Though, like the tried and true Democrats, talk about RFK Jr. like he's the fucking devil. And I was shocked. Like I thought they'd be like, man, I thought they'd be pissed because he's running as an independent or whatever.
Right.
But they were like, he's responsible for thousands of people dying. I guess because of mainly because of the COVID vaccine. He questioned it.
Oh,
and then the other piece that was fascinating to me, they think he is an anti-vaxxer through and through.
No, he's
against
not.
All vaccines.
He's not.
No, he wants to remove the absence of liability from pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah.
Because right now, if a vaccine comes out that's recommended across the board in the U.S., those pharmaceutical companies can't be sued.
Yeah,
if something
there's
goes
nothing.
Wrong.
Right.
So he wants that removed,
Right.
where they are liable for the product they're putting out there, and that it's going into your body.
There's got to be some transparency there. Yeah, dude.
So that he talks about that all the time, and then he talks about irrefutable proof to get a vaccine approved and out on the market. And it was weird times in COVID, but it got rushed to the market.
It did.
And there are things that are happening that are weird right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then people just not being able to choose what goes into their own body, and
Right.
people losing their jobs for it and all that. But I thought his approach to that was pretty reasonable.
Right.
Like, fuck yeah, pharmaceutical companies should be responsible if their
They
vaccine
should be.
kills people.
I mean, they've been drugging us for a long time.
But I don't know what the narrative that's been driven in on the left side, because I don't watch CNN and MSNBC, but they're like, he's an anti-vaxxer. All these people have died because of his views. All that. It's like, what? I've listened to the dudes.
His views are not making anybody die, because no matter what his views were, people were mandated to get the vaccine in certain places. They had to get them.
Yeah.
Or they quit or lost their job, which I think that's unfortunate too. I mean, most parents, we vaccinated our kids when they were babies. Of
course.
If you want them to go to public school, you got to get them vaccinated. There's no way around it.
Right.
But yes, there obviously should be a little bit more. Now we are in a more advanced age when it comes to science.
Right.
I'm not saying it's perfect by any means, but here's the thing, and keep this in mind: if somebody came out with a drug, a shot or something, or a pill that will grow hair for bald people, people don't even give a shit about the testing. They'll be like, "Oh, does it? Okay, let's
Right.
give me the pill."
Yeah.
Or to lose weight.
Prime example right now. Ozempic works, but people are getting really
yeah,
fucking sick from it.
Yeah, dude. Like, so it gets very political when it comes to stuff like
And
that.
I hate that.
And I do too. But I was thinking about that the other day. Like, if somebody came out with a hair growing drug, nobody would question what the testing was. They'd be like, "Give it to me."
Yeah, here's a drug that makes your dick 3 inches longer.
Yeah.
Hey, come on, let's.
I wish my dick was 14 inches, so I'd have to lug this thing around. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. But whatever. We can say whatever the fuck we want. That's the great thing about free speech.
It is.
But yeah, I think, okay, so January 6th, I think we have some differences there. We might be along the same lines of some stuff.
Yeah, I'll tell you something that's interesting to me, and I didn't want to go to notes a bunch.
Do your notes, man.
But especially the part that made me go from "fuck no, it wasn't" to "it's complicated."
Yeah.
So there have been multiple people that were convicted of seditious conspiracy.
Yeah.
That is a very rarely used charge and conviction, but. So a lot of people have heard of the Oath Keepers.
Yes.
And people usually, if they've heard of them, they usually have an immediate reaction.
Of course.
Oh, yeah, those fucking kooks, or
they're the brothers.
Patriots.
Yeah.
But initially 4 members of the Oath Keepers were found guilty
right.
of seditious conspiracy. And
did they take a plea deal, or did they just?
No, they
were just found guilty. Okay,
okay. And the interesting thing, so I was like, okay, but it still could have been what court was it in? It could have been.
What were the jurors like? Yeah.
And I didn't look at any of the evidence because I don't give enough of a shit to do that.
I got
but it said the defendants and their co-conspirators plotted to oppose by force the lawful transfer of presidential power, including amassing an armed quick reaction force on the outskirts of D.C.
Yeah.
So if all that's true, and I'm just going to assume it is because I trust our processes for the most part.
Right.
That kind of sounds like it is.
Yeah.
And then not much later, so a few months later, 2 more Oath Keepers were convicted of seditious conspiracy.
Yeah.
And very similar thing, plotting, stopping the transfer of power.
Yeah.
And they were convicted as well in January of 2022. So there were a total of 9 people convicted.
Yeah.
Some of them were for felonies, and then the majority of them from the Oath Keepers were the seditious conspiracy charge. And then 2 members of Proud Boys, another name that makes people react.
They sure do.
2 of them were also charged and convicted, and Enrique Tarrio and 3 lieutenants found guilty.
Yeah, that's right. I remember those.
Yeah.
I remember those trials. Yeah.
And seditious conspiracy goes back to the Civil War times.
Yeah.
And it was the initial purpose of it was to basically keep Southern soldiers and politicians from usurping the power of the federal government.
Right.
So stopping the transfer of power, interrupting elections and all of that. And it hasn't been used a whole lot since then.
A little over 100 years.
But look, reading admittedly without taking a very deep dive, it looks like perhaps some people from those 2 groups might have been, if they weren't all the way in on that, like seditious conspiracy by letter of the law, they were definitely tiptoeing around it.
No, there was, I said, like, I think a majority of the people there just kind of went with the flow with what was going on. I mean, I get it. Think about any concert you go to. It starts getting rowdy, you get rowdy, and with the crowd.
Yeah.
But there was definitely people there that had that in mind. Like, we are going to stop this process.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's what I brought up, like zip ties. It's just like, what, zip ties, guys? Like, wait a minute. What are you going to do? Guys, like, let's relax here. Like,
here's some interesting history for you, because I'm looking at those charges and seeing in the articles I read, and when I read articles, I go to every source I can find because I don't fucking believe anybody.
Yeah, you have to bounce. Yeah, you have to bounce around.
It has been used a handful of times since 1870 when it first came out. And this is where I read about the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys, like, oh yeah, that there may have been, there were thousands of people there, but these 9 or 10 people seems like they were up to.
Like I said, they wanted to stop the process.
Yeah,
no doubt.
In 95, so there was a conviction in 1995. An Egyptian cleric, Sheikh Omar Abdel Rahman, and 9 of his followers were convicted in a plot to blow up the United Nations building.
Wow.
In the U.S.
Wow.
And an FBI building. And 2 tunnels in New York City.
Wow.
And they were convicted. And the interesting thing was, he was also called the Blind Sheikh, so a lot of people may remember that.
Okay.
He argued that in his appeal that he wasn't really planning the attacks. He was just exercising his First Amendment rights to talk about what he wanted to do, but he didn't really mean it. But that didn't fly very well because
did he? Okay, so that got convicted for just talking about this?
Yeah, basically conspiracy to do so.
Okay, okay.
So there was information exchange, plans, so it wasn't just like we should blow up the UN. Like
there were a little bit more
things,
deeply involved. Okay,
and
I get that.
And then there were a couple that went further back too. There were seditious conspiracy convictions in 1954, and of a group 4 pro-independence Puerto Rican activists rushed the Capitol building in 1954. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
However, the next part is something that didn't happen on January 6th. Opened fire on the House floor.
Oh, shit.
Wounding several representatives. I'd never heard
of that ever.
It's like, okay, that's a slam dunk seditious conspiracy charge.
Yeah.
They stormed the Capitol, went into the House chamber, and started
shooting. Open fire, yeah. I mean, yes.
Okay, so to me, that's my opinion. That still seems worse than what happened on January 6th.
Yes, absolutely.
And then there was one more. There have been a couple others that go further back, but they're not as relevant. Another one, that Oscar Rivera, former leader of a Puerto Rican independence group, orchestrated a bombing campaign that left dozens of people dead and maimed in New York, Chicago, Washington, Puerto Rico in the 70s and 80s. He spent 35 years in prison for seditious conspiracy before Barack Obama commuted his sentence in 2017.
Really?
So, and there's a couple more, but like those seem like slam dunks to me. The Oathkeeper people and the Proud Boys are like, yeah, if I dug into it more to see what were they actually
plotting and planning and stuff. Like if you could read the evidence, you could probably connect the dots.
Yeah.
I mean, yes. I mean, I understand. I mean, people did not want Trump to leave, including himself. I mean, it was.
Right.
If you want my honest opinion, I don't even think he wants to be the fucking president. I think it's just too much for him.
Right.
But he's too far in at this point.
Yeah.
He's too far in, and if he says, fuck it, I don't want to run, I don't want to do this because I'm just done with politics, he's not going to sell his shit.
Right.
His whatever he sells to is the people that just adore him and everything
my
like that.
very naive hope after the 2020 election and then seeing that he stayed in the limelight, and it was naive, and I knew in the back of my mind it would never happen, but I was like, can he please just be a kingmaker? Like, pick the next best Republican person, and if he said, I'm stepping away because it's time to pass the torch and I'm passing it to this person, I really hope I just hope like hell he would do that, because I just don't want to listen to this shit for
I don't either,
years,
man. It's almost like the campaigns didn't even stop.
Right.
I mean, it's like they've been campaigning since 2016, 2018, 2020. It's
fucking exhausting.
It does get exhausting. I mean, I get it. It's like we have a major presidential election, and then we have the midterms, and the midterms usually they kind of tell you what's gonna kind of happen a little bit. Now, in 2018, during the midterms, Democrats took over.
Yeah.
And that's when they started. They started the impeachment process before that.
They did,
but they returned back to it when they had the numbers.
Yeah.
Which to me, that proves that it's political.
Right.
It's like, just fucking move on.
Right.
I mean, so 2020 happened. Biden got in, but a number of Republicans they kept their seats, and they kept the the 2022 midterms. Supposed to be a big red wave.
Yeah, and it was a
more of a ripple.
Yeah,
it was definitely. I mean, they won like 4 seats.
Yeah.
Above what they were supposed to get.
Yeah.
And here's some interesting information. The past couple of years, all these a lot of elections that you haven't heard of, people that kind of quit or resigned, and these special elections.
Yeah.
The Democrats have been kind of killing it.
Yeah.
And now I haven't had a chance to look and see what kind of candidates they are. Moderate or super crazy left or even a right. There's a lot of right-wing Democrats too.
Right.
A lot of people don't realize that, but there actually is.
Yeah.
And that's why you can't really pay attention to mainstream media news, because it makes you think, Biden's down in the polls and Trump's going to probably win, and then the next week, Trump's dropped in the polls. It's just like they just keep you tuning in.
Yeah. And one thing I want to suggest to people or ask people to think about is that if you really think about what's going on with Biden and or the super progressive far leftists on that side, and then on the right, the people that are like ride or die Trump, like if you say anything bad about him,
you are a commie, you are. Yeah.
Okay, those people aside, talk to somebody that who is if I'm a moderate Republican, think about what you're going through.
Right.
And what you're going through probably, if you're a moderate, is, man, I kind of wish this dude would go away. We need a sensible person to get elected who's somewhere in the middle. And then I feel like moderate Democrats are going, fuck Biden. This has been a beating with Biden.
Yes.
And these progressives are making people turn on us. You guys have a lot in common.
Yeah.
Because you're the people that are stuck in the ugly fucking middle right now, and we don't like our guy, you don't like your guy, we just want something normal. Think about that instead of writing people off.
Honestly, you're the true independents.
Yeah.
Because you kind of excuse me, you're kind of bummed on both sides. I mean, I think a majority of the country is. I really think a majority of the country is bummed out on both sides. Republicans, they're supposed to be running for presidency. I haven't heard one fucking policy from these guys. In fact, they just turned down a border bill, which I'm not saying the border bill was perfect. I haven't looked at it, I haven't read it. And most Republicans were coming out going, we can't pass this. And then the news ain't going to be like, well, did you read it? Well, no.
Right.
Well, wait a minute, you know. Excuse me. We're trying to come to a sensible approach here. I'm not saying it's perfect. It's not everybody's going to like it. But when it comes to the border, it's fucked up down there.
Yeah.
It's fucked up, dude. And people are crossing over here, thousands and thousands of people are crossing over here. What the fuck do we do? You know, what are we going to do? Now, a lot of, the leftists, just let them in. Okay, well, you don't live down there.
Right.
You know, you don't live in Texas.
Yeah,
you don't, you know.
And then when Texas sends it to their sanctuary city, all of a sudden they're like, this is untenable. We can't
Exactly.
do this. No shit.
Yeah.
How do you think we're dealing with it in Texas?
I mean,
now?
we already have, tent cities with our people.
Yeah, right.
Now, that's not to, these are people. These aren't numbers. These aren't, they're not all bad people. It's these are people. You know what I mean? I get it, but it's we have to come to some sensible way of treating this. I don't know the answer.
Right.
I'm not,
It's interesting to me, too, because I think about, I've looked a little bit at what other countries' immigration requirements are, if you want to become a citizen. And I know a lot of people on the progressive left always talk about the Scandinavian countries are this perfect example of socialism working,
right?
Even though it's not totally socialist,
right?
But if you start looking up the immigration requirements for those countries,
they're hardcore.
You have to apply and you have to demonstrate that you have a specific set of needed skills, whether you're an engineer or a medical professional. If you're just someone that goes, I want to live there and, I don't really know what I'm going to do and I don't have an education or whatever,
right.
Then sorry.
What are you going to contribute to the country?
Yeah.
Now, these are smaller populated countries. I get that. I mean, America's a lot of motherfuckers.
Yeah. Yeah,
a lot.
I think people I think we should be reminded every now and then of putting the entirety of Europe, overlaying it over the U.S., to show how fucking small.
Jesus, just Texas alone.
Yeah,
Texas alone covers half of Europe.
Right.
A majority of it. So we obviously have way more people that live here, but that's why we have them. That's why things are broken down state by state.
Yeah.
That's why states' rights and stuff like that. I'm for that.
And my thing on open borders or this just over the top numbers of immigration we've had the last 3 years, especially, is that if you look at it. The human element's always there, and it's upsetting to see what some people are going through that are trying to come here.
Absolutely.
Now, if you step back and look at it strictly from a sustainability standpoint, so we're considered a welfare state because we take care of the people that are the poorest of the poor.
Right.
Our poorest people in the U.S. are poor.
Yeah.
But they're not Africa poor. They're not India poor.
They're not, We
have a social safety net, as flawed as it may be. However, that takes a tremendous amount of money and resources to manage. So if you want to have that, you can't financially maintain a wide open border where as many people that want to come because a lot of those people are going to need those services.
Absolutely.
And they're not paying taxes. So it puts a bigger burden on who? The middle class fucking taxpayer.
Yep.
So if you want open borders, the welfare state has to go away. If you want the welfare state, we have to manage immigration better.
Do you know what the corporate tax rate was in the 50s?
I don't remember.
50%.
Yeah. And
then I think the 70s the 70s and 80s it went down to 23%, and now it's 13.
Yeah, and that's in the 70s is when Social Security started slowly tanking too.
And I'm not against taxes. I mean, I wish I could pick and choose where my taxes go.
Yeah,
I think if we as Americans can pick where our money goes, I think you'll see a big shift in a lot of things.
Yeah.
Now these big corporations that are every year just record profits. It's you need to pay up, dude.
Right.
You need to pay up. You don't need another yacht. You don't need to pay the CEO that's retiring $5 billion because he's retiring. You know what I mean? This is ridiculous. Now I'm not saying if you work your way up to the top, you shouldn't get paid for it. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It gets a little bit ridiculous. It's almost kind of what's more dangerous for the country, drug addiction or wealth addiction?
Right.
It's wealth addiction's taken. I mean, drug addiction's bad, but wealth addiction's done quite a bit of damage too.
And the main thing that bothers me because I want people to be able to become as wealthy as they can, and is one of the dogs groaning?
Yeah, I didn't know if that was my stomach.
I don't think that's going to pick up on the mics. But
I was like, is one of my fucking stomach growling? Oh, shit. I already ate. I don't know what the deal is.
Right. I want everybody to be wealthy that can be wealthy, and the pie is not finite.
Right.
There's not X number of dollars in the world, so it has to get. Once it gets divided up, it's gone.
Yeah.
And there's none left for anybody else. But I am a big time proponent of pure capitalism.
Sure.
But we don't live in a capitalist country anymore. It's corporatist.
Yeah.
And that sounds very subtle, but you have these giant companies that are funding super PACs.
Yep.
Those super PACs are pushing for legislation that creates loopholes for the corporations.
Absolutely.
So then it just kind
of
of
it's a vicious circle.
Yeah, and it's a small group of people that are benefiting from it. So I'm a capitalist, and I'm very sad that we don't really live in a capitalist country
I
anymore.
am too. I mean, I like the fact that, that working your way up to get, I mean, some people are just born into money, Trump.
Yeah. I am dying, man.
Dog's killing me.
I wish y'all could hear this. It's going to get louder too. You might be.
It probably will. You may make it picked up on the mic. It's great. I like even I mean, I'll tell you a story. Like when me and Melissa, my wife, got together. We've been married 25 years. It would be 25 years this year. We first got together. I was just getting out of a drug addiction.
Right.
I had to rebuild my reputation before I can go get a job. I wasn't tattooing at the time. I was just doing body piercings at the time. Mm-hmm. But my reputation was not good.
Right.
I like Dave the junkie. Yeah, fuck it, But I had to, but Melissa was working, and she was, I think she worked at a place called Shelton. She was doing hair or something like that there. We were fucking poor, man.
Yeah.
I mean, we were poor. We could barely afford the apartment we were in. We had one car. I didn't have a car. I probably sold mine for drugs at some point, right. Back in the day. And we eventually kind of worked our way up. And I remember the first apartment we had two apartments in Arlington. The first one, it was okay. And then we didn't have enough money, so we had to go to an even shittier one.
Oh man.
And dude, it was bad. Like it was a bad play. Like I remember, and I was playing in Billy Club at the time, and I was touring a lot. I was so fucking nervous to leave. I really was. Yeah. I was, because my stepson Gavin, he was like 3, and Melissa was there alone. I was petrified. I forgot what tour I was on, and then we ended up. I wasn't at home, but she ended up moving to. We got a house in Dallas, mm-hmm. And when I got back from that tour, I ended up mustering up enough confidence to go and get another job doing piercings at a shop. Wasn't the original shop I worked at, and they hired me, and I was and that made all the difference right there. Yeah. Started making more money, and we started build up. Our parents helped us a lot. I'm not going to deny the fact that we definitely had a handout or hand up or whatever you want to call it, and thank you guys. Much appreciated. But we worked our way up, and it's tough when you're doing it, but when you look back, you're like that. It feels good to know
I did it.
That I worked. I with a little bit of help here and there, and I'm not denying that. Yep. But I mean, there was times when we definitely had to rely on the state for shit. Man, we were fucking poor, man. And now, I look now where we're at. It's like we own a business. And Melissa's going for a different kind of career choice at the moment. And everything's okay. I mean, we definitely have months where we're like shit, right. But I think that's just being a middle class American.
Yeah.
I think most people struggle with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. A lot of people are a broken AC or,
the water. You just dealt with some water shit.
Plumbing issues on an 81-year-old house or any of that. And a lot of people are that type of thing away from just falling off the cliff.
Yeah. It's I don't have thousands and thousands saved up to don't worry, we'll just take care of that. Because we just had the AC go out, the heater and the AC go out at the tattoo shop. Dude, we were stressed, man. Yeah. We were stressed because this is usually the slower time of the year as well.
Right.
Now, it got covered. The company that we use is a really cool company. They're family owned and operated as well. So they worked with us. We're paying the bill, but they work with us. But I like I get back. I just think it's the feeling of building that up to where you're like, okay, man, everything's not perfect,
Right.
But we worked for this.
And that's why that's one of many reasons I still love this country that we live in,
yep.
because that opportunity is there.
It absolutely
You're not conscripted to a class, and that's the class you and all of your descendants are going to be in forever.
Yeah.
And I mentioned in episode 1, I spent a month in India at the end of last year, and most people there, if you're born in one of the slums, you're going to grow up in the slum.
Yeah.
You're going to get married to someone in the slum. Your kids are going to grow up in the slum, and that's just how it is.
And they are poor,
and that's real poor, and that's your lot in life. And every now and then, someone kind of escapes it somehow.
I mean,
but there is mobility.
Absolutely.
In this country.
I'm not saying capitalism is perfect, but to me it's the best system. But I agree with you. At this point, the country has shifted to a corporatist way of living.
Yeah.
Where they design all the laws, they design all the or they
tax loopholes.
Yeah, I mean they got lawyers to figure all that shit out, why, when the whole we need to get Trump's tax returns and blah blah blah. It's like, trust me, all those rich people, they all look the same.
Right.
They all look the same. They're all like, oh, this year you paid $10. I paid $12,000. What are you kidding?
Right.
And I only made this fucking much, man.
Yeah.
So, but that's the thing is you have money to hire lawyers to find those loopholes and find all that shit.
Yeah.
It's. I understand wanting to join that gang.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I understand wanting to be at that level to where money, it doesn't even matter. You don't even have to worry about it. You know what I mean? But I don't even think those people are 100% happy all the time either.
Yeah.
There's something missing.
And there's one bow I wanted to put on the Jan 6 thing.
Oh, yeah. We were talking about January 6th, weren't we?
Because I think I mentioned at the beginning that it's complicated.
Yeah.
And depending on, some sources said it was 9 people, some said 11.
Mm.
So around 10 people were convicted of seditious conspiracy. So I was like, okay, well, how many people were arrested and convicted out of that whole thing? And what for? And this is what tells me that the vast majority of the people, well over 99% of the people there, were just pissed off fucking people.
Right.
So over 1,100 people were charged with crimes.
How many people were convicted so far?
It's been over 1,000. Most of the people were convicted of something.
Okay.
But 967 entering or remaining in a restricted federal building. So they went in the federal building. That's
a misdemeanor, isn't it? Is that a felony?
That was a felony.
Wow. Okay.
Because it's a federal building.
Okay, that's right. Federal building.
And some people had multiple charges. That's why this doesn't add up. But that was 960 some people. Assaulting, resisting, or impeding officers.
Sure.
So 372.
Right.
Corruptly obstructing, influencing, or impeding official proceeding or attempting to do so, but not seditious conspiracy. So that was 300 people.
Is that also a felony?
That one I don't remember.
Because it's federal? Or?
Yeah, I believe it is, but I don't. I'll have to put notes to look for sure.
Sure.
And then there was destruction of property, theft of government property.
Yeah.
General conspiracy, which is a felony. Assaulting a member of the media or destroying their equipment. So 42 of people got convicted.
You are impeding on their First Amendment right when you do that. I mean, that is their First Amendment right to be there and video and show what's going on.
Right.
I mean,
so for going on crimes and what those crimes were, roughly 10 people were convicted, right or wrong, of seditious conspiracy, and they're currently in prison for it.
Yeah.
Over 1,000 people were tried and convicted of being in a building they weren't supposed to be in, or destruction of property, or something. So that, to me, that makes what those people were doing. And we're coming up on an hour, so I don't want to start another episode by what I'm about to say. But
has it already been a fucking hour?
Yeah, 53 minutes. Those sound a lot like what people were doing during the Portland riots and the Seattle riots and all of that.
Yeah.
So
the Seattle riots, you mean during the George Floyd thing?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll touch. We should definitely have an episode just touching base on that.
Yeah, because I intentionally wanted to stay away from. I hate whataboutism.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
And my knee-jerk right-leaning reaction is, okay, all this happened, but what about Portland?
Yeah.
What about the courthouse that got, someone set it on fire there?
Yeah.
And I wanted to go to whataboutism so bad, but I decided, you know what? It's still two separate things and two separate triggers. So
absolutely,
that's another episode.
We'll do another episode of that because I think that's another subject to talk about as well, and we should definitely touch base on that. I was going to say, it's so funny because we we talked about, and there's some things we don't agree on, but we actually kind of agree on a lot of shit.
Yeah.
But that's okay. This is okay to do this because just getting it out and talking about it as just two friends or two humans and just two people that are still on two different sides of the coin for the most part.
Yeah.
Is a good thing. It's a good thing to show people. I was also going to tell people when we post this stuff, please don't rate our Facebook pages and tell us your opinions on this shit because I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. If the people to the right of me and the Trump people want to call me a commie, fine.
Fuck you.
I guess I'm a commie.
Yeah.
And if the lefties want to call me a Trump tard, so be it.
So be it.
If you think that's going to make me lose a minute of sleep, then you haven't listened enough already.
Exactly. I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, people need to realize that it's like, and not like we don't value your opinions, but it's like this is between me and us.
Yeah.
We're talking about this as two people, two friends.
And the whole point of this is to prove that discussions can happen without name calling.
Yeah.
So if someone jumps in here and name calls, they're not really paying attention to the point of this.
It fucks everything up, man. It just it lowers the standard of what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
We're trying to keep a certain standard of like professionalism, and trust me, I'm not the smartest guy in the world. Trust me. But I know what I know, and I'm passionate about what I am passionate about. And at some point, we probably will hit a snag where we're like, "No, dude, that's not." You know what I mean? Like,
right, it's time.
But that's okay. I mean, that's okay. I mean, we wanted to bring this subject matter up because it is very sensitive to a lot of people. And I think the conclusion is like I think we kind of agree. Like I said. I do think that people engaged in insurrectionism. I don't think everybody there did.
Right.
I just think that they were like, fuck it, yeah, let's storm this bitch.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of get into this mob mentality. It's very easy to do. It's very easy to get wrapped up into that.
Yep.
It is unfortunate for the people that lost their lives that day.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate for the people that, whether you hate the Congress people or not, they were afraid for their lives. They were like, they didn't know what was going to happen.
Right.
You know, and it's like, that sucks to have to go to work and be like, what? We have to be on lockdown? Like, you know, like that's not a great feeling. I mean,
yep.
But that was cool. That was a good discussion.
Yeah.
I thought that was good, man. Put it there, bud.
Yep.
See that, people? You saw that.
You saw it. And if you didn't see it, and you're just listening on Spotify or on Apple, we shook hands. Because we're fucking grown-ups.
That's right. But I did the little finger thing in the middle of his hand. So.
Yeah, and I got a little tiny old man boner from that, too.
So we're going on an hour. Real quick here. Remember I told you, like, this is totally off subject, but I mentioned everybody on the podcast, but I quit smoking pot like 5 months ago.
Yeah.
So I decided, you know what, maybe I'll smoke a bowl to see what it feels like. I did not like it.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, because the pot's fucking strong now, which I've already known this. I took like one bong hit and was, fucked up. Like,
when you don't have that baseline of THC in your body at all times.
My anxiety, the first thing I was like, man, I shouldn't have done this. You know, it's like I was like, did somebody put mushrooms in my pot? Like, what happened here? And I guess I'm that guy now. I'm the guy that was better. I found out at home than being at a party and taking a couple of hits off a joint, and being like, oh shit, man.
Yeah. I want to open my own dispensary with a different business model, and the business model is kind of shitty weed. You know, like what I had to deal with in the 80s, because because I feel like kids today want to get like obliterated fucking high.
Yeah.
And I want a buzz.
Yeah, I just want to.
And it's like you have to, if you like, I've bought weed in the last few years. And hey, what are you looking for? What's the weakest shit you have?
Do you have anything with seeds anymore?
Right.
I'd like to roll that shit off an old album.
So nobody steal my business plan, but I want to start a shitty weed grow operation now.
Is it kind? It's kinda.
Yeah, it's all right.
All right, guys. I think we're going to go ahead and sign off. Thanks a lot for listening. We appreciate everybody that's been tuning in and like giving us props for all this stuff. I'm actually glad we actually kind of had to have a little bit of a political discussion.
Yeah.
We've talked about doing this. We haven't done it yet because we've had really awesome guests. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm super stoked on that. We had Sammy Town. We had John Jeter. We had some really good. We got some more coming as well. We'll try to get them all scheduled in for you guys. But I like this. I like what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to continue to do it. So try to make it grow. So.
Hell yeah.
All right. If you like us, tell your friends. If you hate us, tell your enemies.
Yes. All right. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Our Lord 2020, I think that the month it was March. For humanity's sake, we were asked to partake and to break down the arc of the arch. The rogues did resist, and the scoundrels insist to engage was far too tall a task. So do not disturb or get kicked to the curb, make no mention or bother to ask. Silent, the sidelines were full, and the stands there were standing room only. A spectator sport that you couldn't cut short in a league where you're left out and lonely. Some may look inward and some would dig deep, others would just look around them. Keep your eyes on the shepherd and not on the sheep, just be happy you finally found them. Lady Liberty go. Oh, yes. She's out of here, we don't know where, and it appears that you could care less. Good day and God bless.
And the casket. The workers up front were dismissed or dispatched. Got